unmentionables to be mentioned before all of our panties are in one giant, ambigalactic, unisexualistic, gender-lost, lava and gridiron, ice cream, Saturday, brunchin', lunchin', bunch.
I need a microphone. I need a microphone. Welcome. I'm Jesse. Sitting across from me is the man himself, Jay Purcell.
Hello, everybody.
What's up? We're talking about Mark Guliana.
Yes. Roots to the Grooves. Here we are again. Another week. Another artist.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say that.
We haven't said it in a while, but, you know, for the new listeners and viewers, we get together every week as musicians ourselves, and we talk about a different artist each week, and we talk about their beginnings, their roots, and their music, their grooves.
Yes. Ooh, I like what you did there.
Yeah, I just thought that up on the spot there. And everything in between, their career, their mindset, their approach to making music, how they keep making music, how they're able to make a career, a living out of it or not. But usually they are, because we're talking about artists that have somewhat of a career in this space that we call music. And Mark Guliana this week, who, a little bit of an unusual episode. We have talked about drummers before. Reminds me of an artist that you suggested quite a while ago, Eli Kessler.
Right.
He's definitely a drummer, but he does a lot more art kind of installation-y type things.
Right.
This week, Mark Guliana is a drummer who has had a long career as a session drummer. He's played with so many different people. Probably his biggest claim to fame that a lot of people might have heard of him was David Bowie's last ever album, Blackstar. Mark was the drummer on that album. And he's played with all kinds of other sort of jazz musicians, a lot of jazz collaborations throughout his career, I think, predominantly. He's also released his own solo material over the years. We opened up this week with a track from his 2019 album, Beat Music, Beat Music, Beat Music, exclamation point on each one of those beat musics. And that was a track called Girl. That was the first track I ever heard of him on, and I think it was a music video that I saw. It's a really cool music video. He's like playing in drums in like an apartment, or it looks like a seedy hotel. There's lots of like neon lights outside. There's some really trippy camera work with the music and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, overall, like he's a drummer, and his own solo music has ranged from sort of more traditional kind of, well, not traditional jazz, traditional-ish jazz. Some of his stuff on his Spotify discography can be that way. But he introduces a lot of like electronic components into it. He's like veering more into the drum and bass, dubby, electronica kind of realm of stuff, mixed in with jazz. But
I have a couple other genre titles that I'm not super familiar with, but I put them down in the notes just to give more context.
Yeah.
Modern creative, experimental electro, electric jazz,
right,
post bop.
Post bop.
That sounds fun. electronica. You know, just a couple little piggyback off what you're saying.
Yeah.
But very cool. This guy's very interesting. He's like an adventurist of the drums.
Yeah.
He's a drummer, educator, you know, composer, producer.
Yeah.
So I mean, really cool videos out there of him showing like master classes of how to do different beats and different, you know, techniques.
Yeah.
So he's like a musician's musician.
Yeah.
That's the vibe that I get. Like people respect him in the industry. People want to play with him. People want to learn from him. And he's a really cool, seems like a really cool person.
Yeah.
And he's really into the like drumming, obviously, but even music in general, even more. You know, he's more of a musician than he is a drummer, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And like his mindset's very cool as well. And we can get into it later, but he just really cares about what he's doing and playing with other people and making those real connections with music.
Yeah.
And it's very impressive. Yeah. And he's a very well-rounded, cool musician.
Definitely. And so when I sent this artist to you, where did you start? Did you like listen to anything to begin with, or like,
I can't remember where I started. I think I dove in like I think maybe it was beat music.
Right.
Because that one stood out. I think it was like a bright album cover and the exclamation marks are like, let's see what this is about. It says beat in it. I like beats.
Yeah, and the tracks, they're like all capitalized letters, and it's like tracks like girl, bones, mud, bullet, home, roast, human. It's like,
just really like kind of visceral stylings of the you know, album and names of the tracks.
Yeah.
And then I think I just hopped around.
Yeah.
Because I mean his stuff is, you know, his discography is expansive.
Yeah.
A lot of different music, a lot of different music that sounds different.
Yeah.
You know, from more like jazzy acoustic stuff to, you know, obviously where we started with kind of synthy electronic electro stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And he definitely dabbles in both and has respect for both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a great, you know, compositionist.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously he has a lot of skills with production and composition and doing acoustic stuff with, you know, live musicians and producing stuff in a DAW by himself or with other musicians, but just creating in multiple different ways. Yeah. And he's still, you know, I don't know, he makes waves in the industry. He's kind of underground as far as the name goes. Yeah. But he's worked with huge people like David Bowie, and that's absolutely massive. Yeah. But generally off the street, most people won't know who this is, like myself. Yeah. And so that's why we want to kind of make that connection and bring this guy's name to the table. Yeah. Because he's part of this conversation that we're having in music. And he's an impressive guy. I like it. Wow.
Let's get into his early years and his creative mindset. We got a sec, but after a track. After a track.
Wait.
Yeah.
You got a track loaded up for us? Which one are we playing?
This is off of a collaboration album from 2006 that he did called Locked in a Basement with Hernt and Neil Persiani. And this is the title track, Locked in a Basement. There you go. Locked in a Basement. That was a collaboration that Mark Giuliani did back in 2006 with a couple of other artists, Neil Persiani, who plays electric bass, and Zach Colwell, who goes by the name of Hunt. He plays saxes and Juno synths and stuff like that.
Hunt was the group, right?
I'm not sure. Was that right?
As far as I know, Hunt is it's a trio, and Mark Giuliana was a part of that trio.
Oh, there you go. All right. So it was released as Hunt, but with those three guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So
that makes more sense.
Totally. I'm just saying. But the point being, this guy just he forms groups wherever he goes.
He seems like it. Yeah.
He's like, I want to work with you. Let's make an album with you.
Right.
Let's make a band.
Yeah.
I want to work with you. Let's make a band.
Yeah.
And then they do.
Yeah.
And it's all really good stuff.
Yeah.
But I think Hunt was one of the first things. We'll get there when we get there. Let's go back into the.
Okay.
We're going to New Jersey today, Jay.
Yes.
To New Jersey.
1980, the year that Mark Giuliani was born and the place that he was born and raised, New Jersey.
We take a taxi cab all the way to Florham Park, his home area.
Okay.
It's a borough of Morris County, New Jersey.
There you go. Yeah.
In the United States of America.
Is that on Earth or?
That's going to be on a planet, it's the third planet from the sun.
Okay, got it.
In
Cool.
the
third rock from the sun.
third rock from the sun. Exactly.
All right.
Like the TV show.
Yeah, like the TV show.
So yeah, I don't have a lot of details as far as his super early life.
No.
But this kid was born into a family, and he was interested in music as a child.
Yeah.
And this is basically all I have until he started playing music seriously at 15.
Yeah.
He started taking drum lessons.
Yeah, he said his didn't come from a musical family, but he started taking drum lessons. It's basically an activity. He said his parents, wanted him to always be engaged in some kind of activity and stay busy kind of thing. And out of somewhere, he decided drum lessons were a thing to do. And he said it didn't take him that long after doing a couple of lessons to realize that he had a connection to making music. It was just oh, this makes sense kind of thing. I need to do this.
Yeah, this feels good.
Yeah. And that, crazy enough, that one moment there just led him on to pursuing it, from then on, going to William Patterson University, where he studied jazz. His first drum teacher when he was like a teenager was, what was his name? Joe Bergamini.
Okay,
Joe
yeah.
Bergamini, who apparently was a good drummer in his own right, had various groups, I think.
And that was his drum teacher, right?
That was his drum teacher, yeah.
Yeah.
And he learned a lot from him, yeah, saying basically he was really good at showing Mark not just technique, but like the importance of learning different genres and styles of music kind of thing, and jazz being an important genre that he introduced him to as a drummer kind of thing.
Yeah, I think he kind of shows him, he taught him how to, showed him that he can love this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really important moment for him as he was going through these lessons. Joe, I want to say his name right, Bergamini. Bergamini.
Yeah.
I left a couple letters off that name.
I spelled it phonetically, but it's not how you spell
okay.
Bergamini, I don't think.
Joe Bergamini. Yeah. Well, I think he developed a love with Mark.
Yeah.
Not, for drums. Like really instilled that. I was like, this is dope. Look how, deep you can go, all the cool things you can learn, the techniques, the improvisation. And he learned all these really cool things. And Mark fell in love with the drums.
Right.
And so that was kind of the thing. Yeah. And then you already said, or I'm still in high school a little bit.
Right.
I'm a little behind where you were, but still in high school, he played in various ensembles, different iterations of a jazz group at the school or something like that.
Yeah.
And I guess he also played in a big band group, and he played in a rock group, a prog group, and even a funk group, right. or at least these iterations of people he was making music with played those styles.
Right. Yeah.
I think would be fair to say.
Yeah.
And then skip to where you went, William Patterson University in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And he was doing jazz studies.
Yeah, and it was through like the other people he was going to university with that exposed him to other styles of music that he hadn't really been exposed to before, like namely like electronica music. Square Pusher being a big artist that he said like as soon as he heard that stuff, he was like, oh, that's triggering some other inspiration glands in his brain or something like that,
Yeah.
you know. So he was sort of, you know, I think that from then on as well, once he heard Square Pusher, trying to, you know, push his own music more into that realm as well, which he has done, you know, over his career as well on his own albums with the heavy electronica influence. But yeah, that's kind of like where he went, and then he's graduated university, right?
Yeah, 2003.
And I mean, I don't know the specifics, but not long after he really sort of dove into the session musician realm, you know, and I think, I don't know if he was still living in New Jersey or whether he like relocated to New York at that time kind of thing. But definitely throughout his earlier career, he was based in New York. And, you know, there's obviously a big music scene out there, jazz scene kind of thing, and a lot of work as well for like, you know, gigging jazz musicians, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
And lots of like different quartets and groups that he was a part of, and, you know, the networking, just the natural networking of playing music with all those different jazz cats, you know, kind of leads to everything else that he's done. You know, the other, like basically none of his like session projects would have come about without him sort of playing with all these various multitude of musicians across the city kind of thing. And,
Totally.
you know,
The power of networking.
yeah, power of networking and
It's who you know, not what you know.
yeah, and being I think one of the things that Mark says is being open to like the styles of music and not locking yourself into one genre, even though he's like would be considered primarily a jazz drummer, jazz musician. Like you said, in his early years he did play all kinds of different styles, and I think like, you know, he hasn't really sort of switched himself off from that. I mean, basically, I think also he was into like, you know, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden as well. You know, he was like, you know, coming up right at that time.
Definitely some just mainstream, you know, interest in some mainstream music that was happening.
Yeah. Like he said, I think the first album he bought was a Pearl Jam album.
Nice.
You know, so I think it was an album called Versus. I haven't heard of it. I'm not a massive Pearl Jam aficionado, despite us being in the city of the Pearl Jams.
Yeah, I respect him. Same.
Yeah. But Soundgarden, he like later collaborated with the drummer from Soundgarden, Matt Cameron, on a solo project that Mark had as well.
Nice.
So
I didn't know that.
crazy. Yeah.
So I guess let me paint this little picture from the time when he was in college to when he started. Basically, we opened up with that track that was Hernt.
Yeah.
That group. So basically, he met this guy who's also part of Hernt. I'm going to try to say his name. Avishai. It's Avishai. Avishai, is that right? That sounds better.
That's how I would say it.
Avishai Cohen.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess he's a trumpeter.
Right. Yeah.
And so he's like, he had a group. There was like a trio. Yeah. And he's his own. All these people like work with different people. Like these people are all like session musicians for themselves.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna be a session musician, a drummer for this band that I just created.
Right.
That I'm in. Like it's like that.
Yeah.
But basically he hooked up with that guy, and they created Hernt. And then that's kind of one of the first big connections that I saw.
Right.
That, you know, I don't know. He created a band out of nothing just from knowing people in the network.
Yeah.
And released it, and it was good, and that kind of, you know, sent him off to continuing to do the same thing.
Yeah. He's like, done a lot of like different albums. Like I don't know, the names of some of these people. I think they're like really like big jazz people.
Let me stop us before we go too far.
Yeah.
I just have one more note on the Avishai Cohen.
Yeah.
Because so he has some like touring groups.
Right.
And I think he has a studio as well in New York.
Okay.
And so Mark Guliana like joined those groups in studio. It's almost like a label type thing, like you're in a club.
Right.
I
like
think
a collective type thing.
Yeah, collective. That's the better word for it.
Yeah.
And so he joined these groups that go on tour or that are like session musicians at this studio.
Right.
And so he started like, working and networking even more.
Yeah.
And so I guess he appeared on 6 different albums with that collective.
Wow. Yeah.
So just, a lot of work getting done,
Yeah.
a lot of networking.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he's right where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's basically all I got. And so like while that was happening, as far as I know, that's when he co-founded Hernt during this time period, which is, just to be clear, it's experimental garage jazz is one thing that I saw written down.
Yeah. And
they released that full length Locked in a Basement. That was 2006.
Right. Yeah.
So that brings us up to 2006.
Yeah.
I have also, he was working with Cohen and Hernt. Mark played in a session and live stuff with a lot of different artists. I have a couple names. Michel. This is so tough, you guys. It's harder than you think. Michel
Angelico, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have that right? There's a capital N and a capital D at the beginning of the name.
Yeah, I've heard.
I don't even know where to start on how to pronounce
that artist come across a few things.
Okay.
Before. Yeah.
I've never heard that name or seen that word.
Yeah.
So I cannot pronounce that. Dafer Youssef.
Right. Yeah.
It's rough. I don't know these people. Yeah. One I do know, Modest Yahoo.
Modest Yahoo?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You
don't know Modest Yahoo?
No.
You would know.
Modest Yahoo?
Yeah, you got to know at least. He has a couple huge tracks. He's like a Jewish. I don't know. He used to do kind of more reggae type music.
Yeah.
And I think he went a little bit more towards pop, but with some of those kind of still reggae stylings. Okay. I don't know too much about him, but I know, he's been around for a really long time and he tours a lot and he's pretty great.
How do you spell that?
Modest Yahoo, Matisy.
Oh, that's why I was typing in Modest Yahoo, like modest, like Modest Mouse and Yahoo, the internet brand.
Yahoo, the chocolate milk.
Oh, that's Yoo-hoo.
Oh, that's Yoo-hoo. Oh, yeah, that's right.
I know my milk products.
Okay.
Nice.
Don't question Jay on his chocolate milk.
Oh, I was gonna say Mitiashu. No, but it's pronounced Modest Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, crazy. All right.
Cool. That's why we're both on this podcast.
There you go. That's why there's 2 of us.
We can't figure this out individually. Yeah. I got Gretchen Parlato, Brad Shapik, Bobby McFerrin. So hopefully these names mean something to you guys. I've never heard of some of these guys, but I bet there's a lot of good music if we explore those.
So Gretchen Parlato is his wife, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, they got married at a certain point, and she's American jazz singer. Yeah, and she's done a lot of stuff in her own right with Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock,
Herbs,
Esperanza Spalding. I've heard of her as well. I haven't heard of these other people. It's a whole other world, jazz. Still to this day, like the modern jazz musicians. There's a lot of them out there doing and it's an acquired taste, I think, because some of it is a little bit too, I don't know. I don't want to say cheesy, but like dinner music. I don't know. You know what I mean? Smooth jazz is a whole thing, but
is it almost like Muzak?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I'm not to throw any of these eyes under the bus.
Yeah, I'm not trying to diss.
It's a whole different world, but it's like, my sort of jazz listening veers more towards like John Coltrane and Miles Davis.
Some classic stuff.
Yeah, classic. And even the craziest stuff they did, like Miles Davis did this whole album, Bitches Brew, which was like insane type of album.
That's a cool name.
Yeah. It was like, if you think about like, it's kind of like Jimi Hendrix of the jazz world, that album kind of thing. It was like in the 70s. There's a lot of like the drum production quality on it is very like 70s dry drum sound, but jazz sort of thing. So it's not funky because it doesn't settle too much. It like veers off a lot and goes in different directions.
Different tangents.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, that's where I'm at with jazz is, I guess, the classics and the newer stuff that is more like neo soul kind of stuff.
Jazz with pop sensibilities.
Yeah, or even like what Mark Guliana's doing is, because he's not meddling. He's meddling in this
He's loitering.
World. He's loitering. He's mixing up in this jazz world, but then he's doing his own really interesting stuff that, you know, wouldn't really fit with some of the other people he's played for or with, kind of thing, you know.
Right.
Which is cool. So but
Totally.
Yeah.
So let's move on. We're going through the narrative.
Yeah.
Guliana is he's killing it.
Yeah.
He's already awesome, doing a lot of good work. So he issues a self-titled EP in 2010. And I think that was pretty much solo project.
Right.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until 2012 where he formed the ensemble Beat Music. And that's like a collective, would you say?
Yeah.
It's like a kind of a group.
Yeah.
But you can kind of come in and out based on if you're busy or not.
I guess like in the traditional jazz sense, like he's the band leader. Like
it's a band and he's the band leader. That's a good way to say it.
So they sort of organize around him, kind of thing. Like
yes.
And he organizes it, leads it. Yeah. And I think there's like 3 or 4 other people, a couple of keyboardists in that, triggering like sort of synth, or not even triggering. I think they're actually like playing synths and stuff like that. Maybe like a few sample triggers. I know he has the electronic drum pad as well that he's using to like trigger certain like delay effects, samples in amongst his drumming, kind of thing.
Which is cool.
A lot of dubby vibes in that stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So they released a debut EP later that year. And then I guess, I don't know I think it was a full length. There was a digital release specifically, and it was called A Form of Truth in 2013.
Yeah.
And that was co-produced by, you gotta help me out, N.D. Negocello.
Oh, Angelico?
Michelle
Angelico? I think that's how you say it.
Angelico?
German American singer, songwriter, rapper, and bassist.
And that was like melded jazz, dub, funk, glitch, hip hop, rock. It was kind of coming from all different, musical spaces.
Yeah.
And they were just like, let's do it all. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
And there was some session musicians like Nur Felder. This is just the name drop
episode.
Jazz Cat name drop that I don't know about. David Binney or Biney.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 4 different bass players, I guess. And I think the co-producer, I'm not even going to try to say the name again, also was on the album playing bass.
Right.
So
okay. Yeah.
Very cool. That's all I got on that. So he starts Beat Music and then he goes on from there.
Yeah.
Okay. So he formed another genre blurring, I think it was a duo.
Yeah.
And I think it was called Mehalina.
Okay.
Mehliana.
Right.
Mehalina. And it was adventurous, genre blurring, like I said. It was the debut offering. I guess it was called Taming the Dragon, and it appeared on None Such record label, and that was 2014.
Right.
So very cool.
Yeah. Should play track?
Yeah, I think it's time for another track. So this guy's cooking. Like he's working with a lot of cool different people, a lot of famous jazz type people. And he's busting out music wherever he goes. Yeah. Already, like, he's, somewhat early in his career, still is today. Yeah. But at this point, like 2010, 12, 14, he's been in it for like, 6 or 10 years. Yeah. And he's already like doing a lot of cool stuff and everybody wants to work with him. Yeah.
And in 2014, I think he released what could be considered his first proper solo album. Called My Life Starts Now. There's a few collabs on here, including Michelle. Or I think only Michelle is the only collaborator. The rest of it is all him. And I think this kind of like put a kind of a stamp of like a direction that he wanted to head in individually, standing out from everything else that he was doing with other people, kind of thing. Right. So I'll play a bit of this.
That's easy to make yourself valuable again to somebody that you know, and it's a good way to sail. If you're making a lot of mistakes on the deck, but then later on in the evening, even if somebody got hurt, you're talking to them in a nice way, then you can still have a good friend in that person. But if you are being callous to them, and you're making a lot of funny faces, not being sensitive, and over dinner you're turning your back on someone, or possibly just trying to pretend that the events of the day were not real. That's not going to work either, because that person saw you moving toward them, toward whatever the mistake was that you were making. So you have about 30 seconds or so from the moment that they start to feel like that until it shifts back into the friendship that you will no longer have with them. So remember, before you go to sleep with that person, that you're gonna be there for them as a very devout friend, because you can't just leave them feeling like that at the end of the day. You have to leave them at the end of the day. You have to leave them completely confident in the love that you have for them. So give it a try. Give that a try. It'll come back to you.
Crazy shit. Mark Guliana, from his first kind of debut album, I would say, My Life Starts Now. It will come back to you. And I was trying to find out where the sample spoken word thing came from, but I couldn't find anything. So
I was wondering. It sounds kind of cool though.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing he does throughout his music, because not being a singer, he can't really express things through words.
Right.
He might sing, but he hasn't put it on a record yet. So he does a lot of the, dropping spoken word samples throughout his albums kind of thing, and kind of using that to get, a narrative across, I guess, or what he wants to say sort of thing.
Jumping off that, we can get into like the way he creates and thinks about music a little bit now.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes I think in some interviews I was reading, he actually thinks the music or the vocal parts can get in the way of what the music is trying to express a lot of the time, which I think is why he goes instrumental a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he hates vocals; they have their time and place. But for him, I think he really cares authentically about the music, and the energy of the music and the vibe and how it's being expressed.
Yeah.
And, you know, what role he plays in expressing that and sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, he loves playing with other people.
Yeah.
And let's get in here. I want to read a quote.
Yeah.
And I do want to give a shout out to, I guess, this website called 15 Questions, or it's like an interview series or something. I don't know, but I highly recommend reading this whole interview. Mark just gives unstoppable, like, great answers,
Right.
that are really in depth about how he thinks about music and how he thinks about the drums and his place in all of this. 15 Questions, Mark Guliana, just look that up. So he's talking about the relationship of his instruments. The relationship with my instrument is very special to me. Although they are inanimate objects, I do believe there is a life inside of them. And it's up to me, or it's up to any musician, to find all the possibilities that are hiding inside of their instrument and to wake them up and to explore them. And I really do think there's a two-way relationship that can always be further investigated and deepened.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So just, you know, no holds barred. He's like, some people would think that's weird. Like, there's a life to the instrument. You know, I totally, like, fuck with that, though. I think it's really true.
Yeah.
Like, everything's a relationship. Everything is, you know, vibrating.
Yeah.
And that's the way we live. That's the energy field that we live in.
Yeah.
And we're all expressing this, and, you know, the inanimate objects are part of our world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just love the way he thinks about stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. No, he's dropped a lot of, like, really interesting insight bombs that I've seen across a few interviews.
Yeah,
Maybe
indiscriminately.
that-
He'll drop them, like, when you don't expect them.
Well, yeah, because also his demeanor is very chill, super chill, relaxed, even soft-spoken kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
But what he's saying is just very, like, ooh, okay, you know, like, and I kind of wanted to get to it. I was, like, waiting for the right time, but maybe now, like,
Sure.
just basically, like, because he was sort of, I think it was like an interview where he was asked, as the audience was specifically like students kind of thing for this video, and they were asking him questions about, you know, for other students, how they can better their careers or learn their craft kind of thing. And he spoke a lot about this sort of stuff. And one of the big things that resonated with me, and it kind of like blows out the purpose of Roots to Grooves a little bit, like, which is like, basically he said that as musicians, you know, or I guess anyone, but specifically for him as musicians, he's like learning a lot from external sources, you know. So he's like studying different artists and listening to their music and reading biographies and interviews and really trying to learn as much as he can from all these different people, the greats, the people he admires and stuff like that. And he basically said, oh, that's great, and you kind of have to do that, but at a certain point, you have to just basically start doing it. And then it's not until you start doing it that you learn more, kind of thing.
Right.
Like, and so, you know, like on Roots to Grooves, you know, one of the purposes of this is to like learn from all these different people. But, you know, one of the most important things that Mark Guliana highlights is that you just have to get stuck in and start doing it, like whatever it is.
Just immersed in what you're trying to create.
Yeah.
And just, you know, be it, go for it.
Yeah, because like you won't learn, it's like a gap, like, because you learn about your own, whilst you do something, you learn about your own abilities or lack of ability, or, you know, whatever it is, like if you're trying to play the guitar, it's like you start off rusty, but like after a year, you're pretty good kind of thing. And you wouldn't have gotten there if you hadn't started at the beginning of the year kind of thing, you know?
Totally.
Because you see how other people play chords and you're trying to do that at first and you're like, oh, why don't I do it this way instead? That's easier for me, you know? And then you're learning, you're like informing yourself by doing kind of thing. And,
Right.
And that's a big part of something that he said. Yeah, it was just like, at a certain point you have to start learning from yourself. Like you are a valuable resource in yourself.
Yeah.
To like get better, you know, at things.
I heard him say multiple times that like the best way to learn, you can learn so much more from playing music with other people,
right?
Rather than by yourself.
Yeah,
like there's times when you should practice by yourself.
Yeah.
Do your paradiddles and this and that.
Yeah.
And get your technique down, but like you're really gonna expand your music consciousness by playing with other people and interacting that way in the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you know, if you're just playing by yourself, you're filling all the blank, empty spaces. But once you're with other musicians, you hear where they're fitting in and where you need to hold off. Like, you know,
it's the difference of having a conversation or me being in my apartment talking to myself.
Exactly.
It's like I could learn something and I could get something out of that.
Yeah.
But like I'm going to learn way more if I'm talking to Jay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's improvisation.
Yeah.
When you have a conversation, I don't know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And my goal should be to listen to what you're saying and then respond.
Yeah.
Not just wait for my turn to say something.
Yeah.
And it's the same with music.
Yeah.
Like, what is Jay doing? How loud is he playing?
Right.
You know, what energy is he giving this? What kind of vibe?
Yeah.
And how can I support that and engage with that?
Yeah.
And no, he says that a lot. Like how to. I mean, I'll end my thought right there.
Oh yeah. Another thing, I wrote this down. I'm reading it like as a quote, but I don't think I wrote it. I think I just transcribed a video of him talking. But he said something. He was asked about, like, you know, what do you say to students who feel like they're not creative? Students of the drum. And he said, everyone's capable of creativity. We all have it within us, but oftentimes it's blocked. Trying to give yourself room to get unblocked is important. It's what not to do as opposed to what to do. And he talks a lot about like trying to get closer to himself and knowing himself and trying to strip away things and in order to help with this as well. And he said by removing unnecessary things in his life, he's getting closer to who he is and who he wants to be, sort of thing. Like, and we've talked about it a lot recently over the last sort of few episodes as well, that even back from like Polo and Pan, like how they set up their daily routine. But that importance of giving yourself space to create, like it's really hard to create and be creative if you're blocked by all of these external factors. Like, oh, you know, I have to work, I've got these obligations to this person and this person, you know, all of these clutter of normal everyday life kind of thing. They exist and sometimes they're unavoidable, but it's like what can we do to strip away those things and simplify things so we can give ourselves room to be creative? Because I don't know about, a lot of people, for me, it's like I find you can't really like switch creativity on and off. Like it kind of happens when it happens.
You can't,
and like, you know. It's like,
no, but you're saying you have to set up the time.
Yeah.
For you don't know what.
Yeah.
But just open time. To be creative. You can't be like, okay, well, I want to come out with a really good track by next month.
Yeah.
So next week, Thursday at 2, I'm going to sit down for an hour and write a hit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it might not happen.
Yeah.
And you can't expect something like that to happen.
Yeah.
But more if you set up a routine in your life where there's plenty of time to be creative, there's a plenty of time every day or once a week, whenever it is, whatever works for you works.
Yeah.
But like you have that time set and dedicated for free thinking and free creativity.
Yeah.
That's when magic will happen.
Yeah.
If you put the effort in.
And it's also mental clutter as well, I think about a lot, because it's, you know, you can create time, like physical time for you to use to be creative. But if you've got like a backlog of things on your mind, things that you have to address or
just
take care of, it's kind of hard to get that off your brain until it's done or off your plate or whatever. And I think that's a challenge as well, because you need to have those both things kind of clear in order to create. You have to have the physical time, but you also need the mental space.
Yeah, the mental clarity.
Yeah.
Like not like, oh, I got to set up that doctor's appointment that I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
I got to go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I got to do my laundry.
Yeah.
I don't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a quote once, I'm paraphrasing, but somebody once said, life is nothing more than constant maintenance.
Yeah.
And like, I think it rings true a lot of times. A lot of the stuff we have to get done is just daily.
Yeah.
Do the dishes, chores, stuff that needs to happen, go get gas, so that you can facilitate the things you want to do creatively in life.
Yeah.
And so it becomes, you look at the greater, like the macro lens of your life and what you're trying to create. And then all of a sudden, like getting your taxes done and going grocery shopping become part of your musical process.
Yeah, right. It's true. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, because we can't yeah, it's like hard. I don't know. Everyone's different, but like for me, like I can't. Like I need to be relaxed and stress free in order to create.
Yeah.
If I have got stuff to do, I just can't. I just like I build up like this like own self guilt. Like it's like I shouldn't be playing around with music right now when I've got these other things I need to be doing. Like it feels almost like a bad thing to do, which is a really horrible way to be. And it's just finding ways to get out of that mindset in order to free yourself up to create. Because it's hard. Like music's a hard thing, like especially in society. We've talked a lot about the different artists where they have parents that support them and parents that don't, and that type of thing. Because in society, like, oh yeah, you want to be a musician, that's great, but you better have a plan B, you better have a backup plan, and you've got to don't give up your day job, sort of thing.
Yeah,
we're sort of surrounded by that mindset in society, and so it's trying to battle against that. Even maybe not that there's anyone in your life that's saying that, but the fact that notion exists in our society is kind of a stressful thing sometimes. So don't think about that. Just give yourself freedom to think. It's okay to play. I think we have to give ourselves freedom to play, right? Leeway.
I think the lowest common denominator is like discipline. Like you want to be free to do music, but to be free, you have to get all this other stuff done to really truly get to that free creative space where, you're firing on all cylinders. So, if you get your stuff done, like work hard, play hard, get your stuff done so you could be ultimately creative. Yeah. And then good stuff will happen from there. Yeah. And it's a cycle from there.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, something Mark Guliana talks a lot about is getting to know himself, and I think he talks about like it transpires and everything, like the way he dresses, the way he presents himself, like he considers these things to help him achieve what he wants to achieve, which is basically like trying to be authentic. And again, I don't know why this is. Maybe I'm more tuned into it now after seeing all these artists, but I feel like it's the last few artists that we've covered that have like mentioned this a lot, the authenticity thing. Because he again says like the artists that he really looks up to are the ones that they were their most authentic selves. Like like Bob Marley, was Bob Marley. Like he wasn't trying to be anyone else. He was just Bob Marley.
I think there's a lot of power into being as much of yourself as possible. Yeah. Like being authentically yourself, like you say, not trying to be like, oh, I like that artist, I need to be like them, I need to dress like them, I need to make music like them. Yeah. Like that artist is probably successful because they were just allowing themselves to be 100% themselves. Right. And that's when cool stuff happens that's unique. Yeah. And people respond to that. Yeah. So I don't know, it's like maybe we need mental reminders for ourselves on a daily basis, like mantras or whatever, to like 100% remind ourselves of these notions, these concepts, these things, so we can like, do what we need to do, or be who we want to be, or be ourselves. I mean, be ourselves, No, but literally like our self-talk, when you talk to yourself in your head, it should be like positive. I love myself. I'm getting stuff done today. Yeah. I'm being so productive. Yeah. Like, let's do it. Yeah. Like, and that's your backup. Yeah. That's you, that awareness. Yeah. Yeah. The awareness of your consciousness.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's move on. He starts playing with a trumpeter called Dave Douglas and a saxophonist called McCaslin. I don't know why I don't have his first name. Okay. But basically, he came out with this album called Family First. Right. In 2015. Yeah. So basically, he was working with a bunch of artists that he really cares about. Yeah. And that's, I think he was talking about when he says family. Yeah. It's like his tight cohorts who are doing similar things and care about the same things. And so he created another group with them. And that album was called Family First. Right. So I think it's another good album of great stuff. Yeah. I think that one was more acoustic based. Right. As far as I know. Yeah. It was recorded with acoustic instruments and he wasn't doing his kind of electronic stuff. Right. And so let's talk about Blackstar. Yeah. I think that's about where we are in the narrative. Yeah. I think that album came out, in 2016. Right. So we're talking about David Bowie's final album. Yeah. So amazing. So I guess, So Mark Guliana was playing with these guys who he likes to play with in this band, and they were at a venue playing their show. And David Bowie walks in and saw them.
Okay.
And so he really he liked it.
Yeah.
And he was like, who are these people?
Right.
I guess the story goes that he didn't say anything to them that day.
Yeah.
He just sat in the back. The band was unaware.
Yeah.
He just walked in as a pedestrian off the street.
Yeah.
Checked him out, really liked what he heard and saw. And I guess weeks later, Mark Guliana got an email either from his label manager or somebody else. I'm not sure if it was directly from David Bowie to him, but he got an email saying that David Bowie was at the show and was really interested in working with this group. And so he brought in that whole band into the studio, and they started working on stuff that ended up being Blackstar.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of an amazing story.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said he learned a lot, obviously, as you would, from David Bowie, musically and everything like that. Yeah. And I think before they sort of did one track, I think, first, as the band with David Bowie. Because it was released, he had a compilation album that was released, David Bowie, and there was only one original song on it, and it was a song that Mark Guliana and the band had co-wrote. But yeah, after that experience of doing that track, David wanted to have them come in and work on the full album kind of thing.
Okay, I see. Nice.
Yeah. And yeah, I haven't really dove into that album. I've heard a few of the big tracks from it. I think there was a couple of music videos as well done from it. It's definitely, it's a iconic David Bowie album. It's a lot more, dark. Would you say? Have you listened to it?
Yeah. I mean, it does have an air of mystery and legend to it.
Yeah.
Just because of David Bowie's legendary status as a creator and person. And I don't know. I think David Bowie, when he was making that album, he knew it was near the end.
Right.
It wasn't like he was just firing on all cylinders and felt like dropping an album.
Yeah.
Before he goes on the next tour.
No, it's purposefully
put
together.
I think with intention, he kind of knew okay, this is probably my last album.
Yeah.
I think he was having some health things that were starting to deteriorate.
Yeah.
And kind of getting worse as this album was progressing. It was right up until the line.
Yeah.
I think this album dropped a week after he died or a week before he died.
Yeah, I think it was I want to say he died the day before his birthday or something like that, and it was released on his birthday. There's some crazy story like that.
A lot of just weird serendipity coincidences.
And it was also kind of done in secret as well, I think, because no one knew that this album was going to be dropped. And it was just there kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that must have been a trip for Mark Guliana as well. It's I'm working on this album with, I can't say. I don't know if he had to keep it secret or they all kept it secret, but I think there was that, sort of, yeah.
I mean, just utmost respect for David Bowie.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure he was just let's keep this on the DL.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, yes, sir.
Exactly, yeah.
and that's what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically all I got on Blackstar, but that's a great album.
Yeah.
It's it is a little bit dark. That's just to finish my thought on that. I think David Bowie knew he was dying.
Yeah.
And that it was his last statement. And so a lot of that emotional energy is put into this record.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend listening to that, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not obvious, but I do recommend it.
Right.
So then let's move on. The next year, 2017, and we get a visit from Shigito.
Really? I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
Really?
So Shigito's back. A few episodes ago, we did an episode on him. And he's a Brooklyn producer and drummer. And they collaborated and they made a collaboration called A New Monday.
I don't know where I didn't see this at all. I didn't know. They got together, Shigito and Mark Guliana. Damn.
I know. They're both cool.
Yeah,
and they were together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's dope. I didn't listen to A New Monday.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's really great.
Yeah.
I would recommend that as well.
Yeah.
And then as far as 2017 goes, the only thing I have that he released his own quartet session, and it was called Jersey.
Okay.
So a different band name called Jersey.
Yeah.
Different band altogether.
Yeah. Yeah, he's so prolific with these different groups.
Yeah, I know, it's insane.
Where does one begin, the other end? I don't know. Like, I know he did say though, like, you know, what his ultimate goal is, and he said his ultimate goal is just to play his own music with the musicians he loves and respects.
Yeah.
And to do that forever,
Yeah.
of thing. So if he had to pick one thing or do one thing, he would like to do his own music, like, and present that kind of thing.
100%. So I mean, he's living his dream as it is.
Yeah, I mean, he's, you know, at this point with putting out his own stuff, he's like been able to like carve out that space for himself, as opposed to just having to play with other people all the time, I think, you know, because he does go on tour with like beat music and, you know, plays all over and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. So then 2019 is pretty huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's almost a culmination of his career up until that time.
Yeah.
He creates the electronic influence type music, beat music.
Yeah.
And that drops. And that picked up a Grammy nomination for Best Contemporary Instrumental Album.
Damn.
So that's, you know, a nice accolade to add to the resume of Mark Guliana.
Yeah.
That's all I got on that. We already talked about beat music a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all about all I have. On a technical note, I realized I play all the same equipment that he uses as well.
What do you mean?
He plays Gretsch drums,
Nice.
Sabian cymbals,
Nice.
Remo drum skins,
Nice.
and Vic Firth sticks.
Nice. All those?
Yeah, I play all of those.
Those just by coincidence.
By coincidence, I think, the Gretsch I got because it was small. I wanted a small drum kit that I could cart,
It's a good, like, kind of jazzy.
put in it. Yeah, it's like a jazz club kit. Yeah,
Kind of a small
smaller
kick.
size, lightweight. Stick it in the back of an Uber type thing.
Yeah.
Sabian because Chad Smith plays Sabian cymbals, and I've always played Sabian cymbals.
I think that they're like one of the oldest cymbal makers ever.
They just got a nice sound, yeah. And
I think they've been making cymbals since like 5,000 years ago or something.
probably, yeah.
That's a little, I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah, there
But
were
for
dinosaurs died, and they opened up a Sabian factory. No, I'm just...
I've been hearing a lot of rumors that dinosaurs were alive along with humans for a while.
Really?
I don't know.
Nature nurture debate, is that what? I don't know.
I don't think that's the same debate, but
I'm going to edit that out.
no, leave it in.
Remo, because there's only like basically 2 companies that make drum skins and 2 companies that make... There's probably more than 2 that make drumsticks, but really,
But only 2 that matter.
there's only really 2 that matter, yeah. But it's interesting, yeah, he talks on a drummer level, like he'll mess around with all the tuning depending on the situation, you know. So if he's playing in a stripped down jazz group, he'll tune like the tom-toms, the rack toms, floor tom high, because it's like melodic kind of thing, you know. And so if you're playing solo or with 1 or 2 other musicians, you can have that kind of melodic sound to the drums. Other times, you know, if he's trying to achieve more of that beat music style, you know, he'll tune them lower, maybe deaden them, you know, with some felt on the drums kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, basically, you know, that's pretty simple stuff, really. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just... And the different types of kits as well, you know. He doesn't just play one. He'll go for different size drums depending on the sound, you know. So there's all those, like, varying things you can mess with that maybe a lot of people don't know about in drum world, but maybe other musicians do. The tuning, the size of the drum, the material the drum's made of, the type of skin, because you have clear skins and coated skins. All of these different things achieve different results and different types of sounds that you're after, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah.
So, and there's a few videos out there of him. I don't know about necessarily talking about that stuff, but technique, right? He's like showing technique and stuff like that.
Yeah. If anybody's interested in drums at all, or just music in general, about how things get done, like go look up these videos. They're on YouTube. Yeah. Like literally masterclass.
I think he does them in person as well. Like if you're lucky enough to get a drum clinic with Mark Guliana somewhere, I think he does them in person. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of the videos are of him doing like a one-on-one session with somebody. Yeah. Just showing him like going from the very basic, simple techniques and starting at step 1. It's like literally he's just like hitting the drums one by one and then moving up from there. So it seems like a great educator
Yeah.
and teacher,
Definitely.
as opposed to being an awesome musician and general human being.
He needs to do a drum tuition video if it hasn't already. You know, remember back in the day when they had these VHS tapes that you could buy of different big musicians from big bands would have their own like tapes. Like a lot of these, like Chad Smith had one in the like early 90s. Him and Flea.
Just a VHS tape of what?
Teaching drums.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there was like one guy, like my parents got me these, like, and they were like, I didn't know who some of the bands were, like some hair metal band from the 80s, and it would be the drummer, and it would be like a 2-hour long VHS tape or hour long or whatever. And he's
That's
like,
nuts.
And he's like, yeah, man. He's like sitting there with his jeans and his long hair. I don't know who these people were, and they were like, yeah. Here's how you tune a snare drum. It should be tight enough that you can stand on top of it. And they'll like get on top and stand there and be like, crazy. I don't even know who some of these people were, but there was a whole slew like of VHS tapes of all these big drummers, and they had ones for guitarists as well and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It was just like they're teaching you on tape. Yeah. But now you have masterclass on YouTube and all that, but
More
it's not the
easily
same.
accessible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, impressive that they were doing it back then.
Yeah.
'Cause they would have had to get, I don't know, VCR player and tapes,
Yeah.
just more equipment.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was easier or worse because I have a love-hate relationship with
Technology.
computers and
Yeah, you still have TVs with antennas on, right?
Dropbox and Google Drive,
Google Bucks.
clouds.
But this episode will be on the cloud, and you can download it from the satellite.
Yes.
Yeah.
We done?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
That's all I got on Mark Guliana. Super cool drummer. Check him out if you got some cool tips or tricks. Or what else can I ask for?
Money.
If you got any cash you want to send us?
No,
No, I'm just kidding. I think actually Jay's still getting that bag of cash ready for whoever was the first person to email us.
It should have gone to Kikigaku Mayo.
But you're just taking it back.
Well, yeah. I don't know if he heard the episode we were offering that. But he was the first person to email. So maybe I should respond to be like, I have a bag of cash.
We
waiting
said it
for
on
you.
the air. I think we should follow.
They have gone on a hiatus now, so maybe I don't know. They might need it. I'm just
Only send you a bag of cash if you're in a band.
If you're actively releasing music. All right.
To be continued. I don't know what's going on with the bag of cash. Jace, I don't know. He's hesitating to send it off.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. But if you have any advice for us, hit us up. I'm Jesse. That's Jay. You can email us at
rootstogrooves@signalradio.com, SIGNL radio.com.
Roots to Grooves is a production of Signl Radio. For more music and independent culture, visit signalradio.com. That's signl radio.com.